So we've just got to Windsor, where today we're going to be testing out Sony's brand new vlogging camera, the ZV-1 II. We're going to be heading to Heston Blumenthal's Fat Duck over in Bray, which is a really cute little town not far away from Windsor, where we're going to basically be playing around with it in the restaurant and eating some absolutely incredibly good food at his fine dining restaurant. So let me tell you a little bit about some of the mainline specs of the ZV-1 II. So firstly, it's got a 20.1 megapixel sensor. That's a 1-inch RS Exmor sensor. And that obviously can take quite nice stills. Now, obviously this is a video focused camera, but it can do nice stills. Being able to have a 20.1 megapixel stills, for me, it's kind of the perfect resolution of still, because it means that you're going to get quite a lot of wiggle room. You're going to be able to crop in quite a lot of detail, but it's not an absurd amount of detail that's going to then slow your computer down and be really difficult for edit times. I think that's a really nice amount of resolution, but of course it can also utilize that sensor to get really nice video. So firstly, it can shoot 4K up to 30p. That's really nice. It's going to give you a nice crisp resolution. There's a lot of detail in 4K images. Of course, it also offers slow motion modes, which is really nice too. So you'll have to drop down to 1080p for those slow-mo modes, because it can go all the way up to 120 frames a second, which is incredibly slow. These slow motion modes are going to have around a 10% crop, which is really not much difference. That's just basically a 10% crop in on the field of view. Now, when it comes to your color control, this camera shoots in 8-bit 420. Now, they obviously just kind of sound like a load of random numbers. If you don't know what that is, not a problem, I'll explain it for you. It basically means that you're going to get quite a decent amount of control there to then push your images. So if you shoot something and then you think, oh, maybe the colors don't look great, or maybe I want to make it look more stylized in a certain way, it's going to give you a nice amount of color control to do that. If you want to take your color control to the next level, you can actually shoot in something called log. It actually has log settings that the top of the range Sony cameras also have, so that's S-Log2 and S-Log3. But you don't have to do that, because not everybody wants that kind of control. Sometimes you just want a good image looking straight out of the camera, and this camera can certainly deliver that too. So if you don't want to get all fancy with your color grading, you really don't need to. This camera can produce just a beautiful look straight out of the body. So, as you'd expect with any vlogging camera, there's an autofocus system in this body, and the autofocus system actually has a huge amount of controls which are really going to help you when you're filming, and I'm going to be relying on heavily today. In terms of the detection, you've got the fact that it can detect humans, it can detect human eye, and now they've just added that it can also detect animals. So if you enjoy getting out in nature, you know, we actually just saw some ducks earlier on, and I got a couple of shots of the ducks, and the autofocus tracked them so perfectly, which is really nice to see, really convenient. It just kind of means that vlogging cameras, they're designed to film anything and everything, so having that autofocus performance to help you with that is brilliant. So we've just come out of the Fat Duck and we've headed back to Windsor just to tell you a little bit more about this camera. When you look at the footage, you might notice there's something a little bit strange about it, and that's primarily because there was a lot of light flicker due to basically the frequency that the lights were in at the restaurant. It was also a really low lit restaurant in general, so it was kind of a really difficult environment to film in. As I'll show you a clip here of the light flicker I'm talking about, just so you get an idea of what I mean. So we actually had to fudge it a little bit. So usually, because I'm shooting at 25 frames per second, I would typically want to keep my shutter at 1/50 to keep it doubled. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do so in there because of this flicker, so I actually had to drop it down to 1/25. So one of the most important parts about a fixed lens camera, because you cannot change the lens on this camera, is of course the lens itself. And I would say that's probably the biggest improvement for me from the ZV-1 to the ZV-1 II. This lens most notably goes at its widest end all the way through to 18mm, whereas the previous one only went to 24mm. Now, a difference of 6mm may not sound like an awful lot, but it's actually huge. Here's like a couple of test shots just to show you exactly what I'm talking about and really the difference in the width. But of course, it's no good if it was a fixed lens. So the fact that it zooms is really great. So it goes all the way through to 50mm, which is a really nice zoom range. So 18 all the way through to 50. You can actually control it using a zoom rocker on the top here. That means that you don't need to touch the lens whatsoever. You can just do it like this, and it zooms in or out, meaning that the zooms are really consistent. They basically zoom at the same speed all the way through. Now, the other thing that's super important about a lens is the aperture and basically the depth of field and the amount of light that it can let in. Now, this goes at 1.8 at the wide end, which basically means that I can really easily blur out the background. It means that I can highlight particular moments or give it sort of a more cinematic feel, because often, like movies and stuff like that, they shoot at quite shallow depths of field. So the fact that it can go all the way to 1.8 is massive. Now, at the 50mm end, that's a range of 4 f4, so that's still going to give you a nice depth of field. One of my favorite things about the ZV-1 II is the fact that it can connect with a wide variety of other things. It actually hooks up with the phone app, so you can get a phone app from Sony, which you can then use your phone as a monitor or even remote controls. That means that actually I can utilize my phone to change settings and record on and off and things like that, and also just monitor the viewpoint. So even if I was behind the camera, but I might want to connect it up to a phone just so that my client could be watching my footage as I'm filming. It's really, really useful. It also connects really well up to a PC, so you can use it as a webcam. So I'm going to make this quick because it's about to absolutely chuck it down, but luckily we're done with the day anyway, so that's okay. A few more things I want to tell you about though. Firstly, they've actually changed the menu system, which has been brilliant because I only got handed the camera this morning and I've already easily worked out how I can navigate the entire camera. I've been doing it largely actually using the touch menu, which is fantastic. It means I don't even have to go into the menu systems. I can handle almost everything that I've been needing just by touching the screen. They've made it just as easy to charge too, because you can actually now connect this just via USB-C and charge it immediately. It'll actually charge the battery for you, which is just fantastic. It means you don't have to faff around with battery chargers all the time, or if you forget it, it's not going to be a problem. It means that even if you had a portable battery charger, you could probably power this camera to some degree doing that, which is fantastic. Now, I'll just throw up the rating system for you as I talk now, so you can see in more detail, exactly in figures, what we think of this camera. If you have any questions, then please get in touch. But overall, I'd just like to say, I think if you are perhaps new to vlogging, new to filming things, this could be a really good pick for you, just because it has that fixed lens. Everything's here. You can buy this, you can buy a microphone, and it's got everything you could possibly need. It has tons of auto settings, which means that actually you don't need to be a huge camera nerd like myself to use the camera properly. And most importantly, it's very affordable. That's it from me today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching all this footage from the fat duck that we've been overlaying throughout this video. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed eating it, but I seriously doubt that because it was incredibly delicious. But apart from that, I think I'm done here. Probably gonna go train home, dry off a little bit. So we'll see you guys next time.